Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Scaling New Heights in Railing Design and Efficiency. This session is proudly brought to you by Graitec. My name is Clemens, and I'll be your moderator for today. Before we begin, just a quick housekeeping note. You can always view upcoming webinars, training sessions, and events by visiting our calendar at isti.com/calendar. Feel free to share it with your colleagues and teams. We'd love also to have your feedback. So on the right side of your screen, you'll see a short poll. Please take a moment to respond. It helps us so much better understand how we can best support you and your business. Today, we'll explore how you can streamline railing design, enhance modeling precision, and boost efficiency using PowerPack for advanced steel, unlocking smarter tool and time-saving workflows for modern steel design. So now let's get to the main event. We are very excited to welcome our featured speaker today, Douglas Merton. So Douglas brings over 10 years of experience in 3D steel and concrete modeling. Today, Douglas will show how PowerPack for advanced steel helps you scale new heights in railing, design, and efficiency with smarter tools and simplify modeling, delivery better project outcomes. He will be joining us live afterward for the Q&A, so please send in your question as we go. So now let's get started with Douglas' presentation. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for the webinar Scaling New Heights in Railing Design and Efficiency. My name is Douglas Morton, and I am a Graitec technical specialist. I've worked in the 3D steel modeling and documentation industry for the past 18 years, providing webinars, pre-sale demonstrations, training, and customization. In this webinar, we'll be focusing on the PowerPack handrail tools. The areas that we'll be looking at are how to place the PowerPack handrail, general insertion practices and advantages, adjustment settings provided with the handrail that improve speed and accuracy of placement, using a horizontal base connection with concrete stairs, how to vertically offset the handrail post connection when needed, and once done, if there's any questions, we will be available for some Q&A. Let's begin by looking at the handrail macro and how these can be placed. With the Graitec PowerPack, various methods are available. All right, so here I've set up a couple of scenarios where we can insert railing by points, by lines, and by actual beams. To do this, we're going to go to the PowerPack tab to begin. And from there, you're going to find the stair and railing vault. When we open that up, you're going to find an area in here for stairs, balance stairs, railings, connections, concrete stairs, and cage ladders. We're just going to go to the handrail. Railings, standard. You'll notice right off the bat, if you're familiar with the advanced steel railing command, right off the bat, you get a difference. Normally, you have to select beams. There is no choice. With the PowerPack, you have the choice now selecting from points, beams, or lines. So I'm going to start with points. I'm going to select that. It says select the railing start point. So I'll come over here and I put some nodes in. So I'll go from there to the next node. Then I'll go across this way. And then I'll go to this one as the end. When I'm finished picking the points, I can right click and enter. It then says select object. So if I do have beams there, or I have something that I want to attach those rails to, I can then select that. In this case, I don't, so I'm just going to right click again. And it says, do you want to provide post base points? You can go in and select everywhere you want a post to go, and it'll put it exactly at the points that you select. In this case, all I'm going to do is say no and let the program calculate it. And then it says, do you want to select your nosing point? So if you're on a staircase and you want the nosing point to be different from the top of the stringer, you can pick a nosing point. I'm going to say no here. Give it a moment, it's going to go through, calculate everything, and create the handrail based on the points that I've selected. So here we go. And you can see my handrail has been created. All right. We're going to go through the settings after, but in order to create the rails, just by points, you can go in and you can select those points. What's interesting is you can see that there is no post on the points that I selected here. And if you want, you have the positioning that will allow you to do that. So we have some offsets, right? And we can control the offsets for each segment. So segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, or all segments at the same time. I'll come back to the various segments later, but for now, I'm just going to put 0 and 0, just so we can see. It'll shift everything to the corner. There you go. Now, all those points that I had selected now has a post directly on it. There is no offset. When I did that, the rail going across shifted its post to the corner, and the rail coming this way also shifted its post to the corner. So does that mean that we have two posts? And if I select this, and I right-click and go to Properties, you'll see that it says AST beam, which means there's only one. If I were to pick a second post, it would have the 2 in the bracket. But without a second post picked, you get only the AST beam, which means when I windowed across like this, there's only one post there. The logic inside the handrail is such that when you put one post on top of another, if you shifted it over exactly on top of the other one, it'll remove the one that's been duplicated, and you'll have the one post in the corner or wherever it is you decide to place it. So this gives us a very easy way to insert based on points. It could be existing points, existing elements, and you can place your handrail in, picking those points. That's method 1. Method 2, it's kind of the standard one, what we're used to with advanced steel, where you're going to go in, you're going to pick the beams. These beams can be going on an angle up around, let's say a stair comes back on itself, a switchback stair. You could have a curve in it, like here. I have put a curve just so we could see it. And you're just going to take your handrail and choose beams. Once you've done that, you just pick each of the members that you want to place the handrail onto, and then the start and end point. So I start here. It's going to go around, same way I selected them, and end up there. Again, you get the option to place the post base points. We'll do that later on, but for now, I'm not going to do that. And to choose a nosing point. So if this was going up a slope again, I don't want that. Give it a second to calculate. Build the handrail, and it places it on top. You can see in here we get our handrail come in. And again, we have one segment, and then we have another segment. So we have the offset from there and the offset from there. Or we could always come in and under positioning, we can say we don't want to go by segments, but by total length. And then it'll just be continuously evenly spaced all the way. All right. We'll come back to the settings a little bit. But for now, you can see you can place it onto beams just like before. The last method for placing in handrail is on a line. Now this can be an arc, it can be a line, it can be a polyline, or in this case, a 3D polyline. So if I were to come into here, I can take my handrail, choose lines, pick the line, right click. And if I had beams underneath, I could select them. I don't, so I'll just right click again. And no, I don't want to put the post or the nosing. And you can see the handrails come in. So if I come here now, I'll just shade it a bit. We'll zoom in and see now I've created this handrail. You prefer stairs with a switchback platform in the middle. You can create following a 3D poly if you wanted to. Again, it could the polyline could have an arc in it. You could follow the line with the arc. In here we had on the beams. That's following the beams. And over here we had by point. Three easy ways to go in and place your parts. If you have concrete now, for example, and you didn't want to use your beams, you can go by points or by lines and just place the handrail in that way. And then they'll come in without the need for having the beam underneath. So that is methods for placing the PowerPack hand railing. We have, again, by points, by beams, or by lines. With a handrail placed, you might notice from the window that appears that there are several unique features in the Graitec PowerPack handrail dialog. Let's look at some of the differences that are available when using the tool to create handrails. All right, so let's take a few moments now and take a look at what are some of the settings within the Graitec PowerPack handrails that make it unique, settings we won't normally find. To do that, I'm just going to come over to one of the handrails. I'm going to open up the properties, and then we'll go through the different settings to see what's there. Keep in mind, already we've seen that we can place the handrails in by points, by lines, or on a beam as normal. And we can also determine both post base points ahead of time, which we will see coming up. That's going to be demonstrated as well. So already before even the railing gets built, there were unique features. But once it's built, what are some of the options that are available to us? So let's go through this and take a look. And come down to posts. And under posts in positioning, we're going to see in here we can still do things like top, left, right. That's completely normal. Side offset, by segments or by total length. So just same options that we would have with the regular stairs, right? But what are some of the differences that we have? Well, if you look down here, the post distribution zone, no longer is it just one continuous handrail that goes all the way up here, but it's broken up into segments. So now I have the option of being able to control each segment, start and end. And then I can go to the next segment, start and end, and then to the third, for example. And I can separate the first segment based on distance, and the second segment can be done by number. I can change the spacing from one segment to another if I wanted to. But I have control. It's broken up now into different segments. So it shows me when I want to do things like this, it gives me more control. It gives me the ability to change, in this particular area. I want to move the first post or last post in this segment, and so on and so forth, which is not something that you can do with the regular handrail. You're going to notice that in other areas as we go along as well, and I'll point them out. But that's one of the main differences here, is the ability to more granularly control the elements that go within your handrail based on their segment or their run. Another option that we're going to find in here that's not normally seen is the ability to split. So we have here the top handrail. You'll see if you come to that, they have split. And if you come into here, you'll notice that you can split by maximum distance, and you can assign a distance. And what it will do is, let's say you put 15 feet. Every 15 feet or so, it's going to break that handrail. Or you can come in and you can say split by posts. And then you can pick which post, remember, starting from where you initially selected up to the end, you get post 1, 2, 3, go along that path. And then you can pick the post and say, I want to offset from one side to the other, and you can split that handrail wherever you like. So you have the ability to split your handrails. not only the handrail at the top, but also you can see the middle rail has that option. Even the kick rail has the split option here. If I turn it on, you'll see I get the split option in here for that kick rail. And we also have it here for the grab rail. So if you come down to the grab rail, it has the ability to split as well. So it's not just the top rail, it's throughout. And this gives you more granular control. One of the nice things about this is that if you made a split between two posts from top to bottom, so that it's separated, then you end up with different assemblies throughout the macro. And you don't need to break the macro or create different macros in order to get your handrail come out as different assemblies. So you can actually separate your handrails as it goes along throughout the entire run. So if you have a very long run of handrails and you want to separate it into different sections, you can actually separate it through the macro and create your different assemblies without having to remove the macro. We also have in here, if I turn on the kick rail again, the ability to place a kick rail, but not only that, the kick rail will have, let me see if I can get it to show here somewhere. Oh, it's not turned on, I guess. I'm just not at the right angle. There we go. You'll see you have clip angles. And then you have your connections, not post, but handrail, kick rail connections, and you can control these, right? Is it welded or is it bolted to the kick rail? So you can come in and you can adjust that. It places these connections in for you automatically, and you have some controls over that. So that's kind of an interesting little feature that's not necessarily available normally in the handrail macro that you would get from Advanced Steel. There's also the ability to change your end type. So if we look at the end types here, I turned the wrong thing off. There we go. I turned off the entire top handrail. End type here, if we come into this, you're going to see you have your typical one. So you have your bent end, you have your loop and elbow, but they also have here return to wall. So this is a new one. And it gives you the ability to say, I want to return to wall, and depending on which side you want to go to, you'd set that up. Start, end, right? You can have different end conditions. You also have in here swan neck. So if you need something like that, you can come in and you can do that. And then you have the options for controlling it, which way it goes, what is the length, things like that. So in here, you can do that for your top rail, but you also have the ability to do that for your middle rail. Now, we talked before about how things can be segmented, but they've also given you granular control over each of your rails. So you have your top rail start and end, and then you have your middle rail start and end. In addition to that, if you wanted to, you could also have multiple middle rails with different endings. Not that this would necessarily occur, but each middle rail can be individually controlled. So if you needed one to stick out, not the others, you have that control over it. Right? So you can come into here and you can control each middle rail. You notice how it says 1 right now because I only have one middle rail. But if I came back and I changed that and I said I wanted 2, now I've got 2 middle rails. Well, now when I come into here, you'll notice that the middle rail has 2, and each one can be controlled differently. So a lot more control for the end conditions for your rails. If you need one to extend and the rest not to, or if you want one to do one thing and something else to do something else, you can do that. In the corners, when you change direction with your handrails, maybe the top rail, you want to have one type of a bend, whereas in the middle maybe it's mitered or whatever the case may be. This allows you to do it. It may not necessarily occur all the time, but at least you have the control and you have the option. So everything is broken down to a granular level where you can actually go in and say what you want it to be. Now, just by coming to, let's say, start or end, you would do all of the different middle rails. But if you don't want that, you can go individually to the rail. So you don't have to go one by one through all the rails. You could actually pick the category above and then affect all of them at the same time. Okay. Same thing, middle rail here. I could come in the middle rail and make everything a bent end or something. And then all middle rails would be the same. So that gives you how do you want to control your elements? How do you want to see them? Do you want to change your end conditions for everywhere or just in certain locations? And that gives you the control over it there. All right. For rails like this, where you don't have an end condition or one that comes back into itself or whatever, you can also place caps. So it'll recognize that it's kind of ending and being cut. And you can say for the top rail, I want to have a cap. And you'll notice it'll come in and place that on for you. Then you can control that and say what type of cap you want to use, make it larger and smaller and so on. You see they have controls for middle rails, they have control for grab rails. So anything that's sticking out like this, you can easily put a cap at the end. Where the infills are concerned, normally you would only get pickets. Here you're also going to be able to do panels. So if I select panels here, you're going to notice under the properties, I can do a panel, either plate or grating. I can control, is it in all areas or just the top or bottom areas? How far offset is it from the posts and that? Do I want to have a frame around it? And I can go in, I can pick my frame. It'll put a frame around my panel. Okay. You have connections here. So if I come back, you have the connections for your panel. These can be selected and created. You can create new ones and include them in the PowerPack through the special part manager so that you have your own connections. And you can set the positioning. Do you want them on the side? Do you want them on the top? How many in each direction? How far down are they, etc. Okay. So that's in addition to the pickets that you would normally get. Now, we did infills, new bent rail connection. So the connections themselves, let's just come to post connection. You're going to notice you have certain ones here. Okay. This one here is new. We have here a bent connection that comes to the web, right? Goes to your web section. Now I need to come back and put this by side because it's a connection that goes by side. And then once I do that, I can then come into here to my post connections and that will be available. And you can see I get these by side connections now. I don't have a beam here, but it would connect to any beam that you selected while making the handrail. And you're going to get that connection come in. You then have the option to modify it. So you can, how far from the face, how far is it offset, et cetera, et cetera. So you have full control over that plate that comes in and how it's bolted and what have you, right? Different connectors, the positioning of it, the welds, and so on. So this is new with 2026 here. You have the by-side connection. Now there are controls. We're going to be looking at them in a little bit for by top connection. Let me just go back here for a second. I'm just going to put this back to top like that. Right. If we do a top connection, so we have rectangular connections, whatever, but they do have an option now, and we will see this in action in a minute. But if I put it to like horizontal plate, you'll see it will straighten it out. And this is new also with 2026. So that if you're building on top of concrete stairs, instead of being aligned, it can be horizontally done. And you have the option, if it is horizontal, to do a vertical offset for whichever one that you want to do. All right. So we'll see all that in action in a minute. So I'll go through each of those different connections or different options, since this is a new feature, and we'll see how they work. There's also, if you want, different methods for your connections. So coming to my handrail connections, the middle handrail to post, not the top rail, but the middle rails, if I put this to aligned, this works well with any of those angles or flat type handrails, not the tube so much, but you have the ability to do fixing lugs. And you can come in and you can create the, where the rail is, it's welded to or bolted to a fixing lug and then welded to the rail. Okay. So you have this, and you can see every post you can individually control here, right? So I want this one to be like this, and I want that one to be like that. So basically you can do all of them the same if you want, just by going to all posts. And then if you need one different, just go to that and make your change. You have the option. If you don't want horizontal, they also have vertical, and you can do vertical links. Okay. The only prerequisite to using these is you need to be middle handrail to post aligned. Okay. If you have it to cut, it won't let you do it. You'll see. It'll tell you. All right. So it gives you kind of an idea of a few different things in here. Again, there's the rail. When you go handrail to handrail, each corner, top rail, middle rail, you can break it down. You can do each one independently. When you're done, once you've set this up, and let's say this is the type of handrail you want to use normally, what you can do is you can come into here and you can go to your library and just hit save, give it a name, and it'll end up in here. You can load this at any time. So if I did like I don't want that one. No, let's just do the regular one here, load. You can see it's going to come in. The plates have changed. I've only got 2 bolts. It's got the end condition on it now. And it looks a little off, but it's just because of the way I'm rotated. You can see it's going to come in based on that. Right? So this gives you a lot of different features and functions that you normally wouldn't get. The split of the handrails, the end rail types, the caps, just something to think about, because it will definitely increase the speed and agility with which you can build items. You have a lot of adjustments for each of those options, and it increases the accuracy because it's being built dynamically and based on the setting or rules that you've defined. So there's no accidental drawing it crooked or missing a point or whatever the case may be, and you can always easily come in and make changes to it. All right. So that is the handrail options that you get with stairs and rails from the Graitec PowerPack. Handrails on concrete stairs were often a challenge since the connections would not sit flat on the steps, but instead would travel on a slope in line with the nosing line of the staircase. Now this can be handled, and connections can be placed flat on the treads, making rail development faster, easier, and more accurate. Here I have a concrete staircase, and I've drawn a path that I want my handrail to follow. So I'm going to start with that. We'll come over to the PowerPack handrails, and I'm going to use the standard handrail from there. Here I'm going to pick my lines, and I'll just grab that 3D polyline I set up and right click. The objects I'm going to attach to, right click. And then I want to provide the post base points so they come out where I want them to show up. So here, I'm just going to come from the edge and I'll come in 2.5 inches. And I'll go up 3 stairs. I'll do the same thing again. Come in 2.5 inches. Come up there. Come in. You can see it's going to grab it there anyway. Grab that. Go up another one. There. And at the top, I'm just going to put it right around the corner there. I'll put another one at the end. Okay. Once I'm finished picking my post points, I can right click. And if I want, I can choose a nosing point. And I'll just come down here and say, yeah, that's fine. You can just pick it at the end, or I'll just pick the bottom of the line here. So nosing line. So. And you'll notice that where I selected my post to go, it came in, where I said, yeah, I'm just a bit around the corner, it came in there. And each post has its own grip point. So if you need to move them, you can just select a grip point and move them over. At this point, maybe I want to add some connections. So I can come into here, I'll choose a plate connection. You'll notice that it comes in following the slope. That's not what I want. So what I can do now, and this is a new feature of the handrails, is you can come in and you can tell it the post alignment is horizontal plate. And when you do that, you can see that the plates will sit flat on the stairs. Okay. So rather than following that nosing line, here you get the plates coming on the stairs, just like that. Post connection locations can be adjusted vertically as needed so that they reach the proper level for placement. Each post can be individually controlled, giving the user complete confidence in their ability to get the rail where it needs to go. All right, so let's go back to this concrete stair model that we have and the railing that we just placed. In an example where you put the rails in, or perhaps you want them all evenly spaced, but you need to adjust the rails because they did not come out perfectly. And we'll take a look at this from the side. Let me just do this. There we go. Suppose I needed to move a rail up or down. What you could do from the dialog, and I'll open that up here, is you can come into here and you can go to your connections. We have in here our connections. There we go. Connection definition. You'll notice that there's some tabs here along the top. In addition to being able to set this plate horizontally, we can come to the tab for vertical offset. Each one of our posts is listed here, starting from where we began our handrail all the way to the end. So this will be our first post, second post, third post, and so on. In here, you have the ability to come in and adjust it. So if I needed to lengthen the post by, let's say, 6 inches on that, you can see it's going to take that post, vertically move it up or down. So now you can adjust it to whatever height you need. If you needed to shorten it, you could do a negative value, and that will raise it up. So here you can see that post is being shifted up or down based on the value that you give it. And each one can be independently controlled. So if it's not sitting flush on the stair and you need to adjust it up or down, you have that ability right here. And if you want to change your connectors, they have the connectors here. We'll just throw some anchors in. You can then pick the size of anchors, type of anchors that you want to use, and then use those as well. Right. You have down here positioning, and then you have the ability to set the positioning for the actual holes and the size of them, how big they are, so on. So between the horizontal offset that's now available with the plate, you also have the ability to move them up or down. So you can set it onto your concrete stairs, line them up where you want them to go, and adjust the height so that they sit properly and create your handrails where you need them to be. During the presentation today, we looked at inserting the rails by different means and the unique settings that were available. We also looked at one of the new features, the horizontal base connections. This was covered and shown. And we looked at the vertical offset option and how to move or offset the individual post placements. If you found the presentation helpful, then you may also want to check out a few other available webinars. A list of webinars can be found on the Graitec website, as well as other great resources. Thank you for joining us today, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.